We are live in Studio B on a Friday. Great to have you with us. I am Spencer Linton alongside Jarom Jordan, and it is our absolute pleasure to welcome into Studio B the commissioner of the Big 12 Conference, Bob Bowlsby. We told you we'd keep a seat warm for you whenever you came into town after that Zoom conference back in September, and here you are.
Well, a lot of the seats that I sit in have wires hooked to them, so this is more comfortable than that.
How would you explain your trip to Provo thus far? I know it's been a quick one, but how has it been?
Well, we have our entire senior team with us here, and it's been a terrific visit. Tom Homo and his team have done a great job, and President Worthen has been gracious with his time, and we've met a lot of great people. We've spent time with a lot of the coaches. The highlight has been meeting some of the student athletes and just getting a feel for the place. And so we just couldn't be any more excited about BYU being our new partner, and I can't wait till July 1st of 23.
We cannot either. And when the announcement happened, I thought, well, I want this to be a year out, not two. But it feels like there's a lot to figure out, and you guys are right now.
Yeah, there really is a lot in transition, and some of it is check boxes, and some of it is just comparing notes to make sure that we're doing the same things that you're doing here, and that the expectations meet the actual output. And so it's just there's a period of transition, and I think that BYU leadership was also intent upon making sure that there was a smooth transition from the WCC and not unduly disadvantaging them. And so having some lead time is a blessing. There isn't any doubt about that. But there's plenty to do. We have subgroups working on scheduling, and we're beginning to include BYU leadership in our meetings, and so it's starting to feel real.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it for sure. You are a Renaissance man in your responsibilities within the Big 12 and the NCAA in general. You're a huge part of the College Football Playoff Expansion Committee. We just learned this morning that it's going to stay at 4 teams through 2025. How do you feel about the decision to stay at 4 teams in the College Football Playoff through 25?
Well, I was a part of the decision, so I have to take some of the responsibility for it. I actually believe that the move to 12 was altogether appropriate. It was good for us competitively. It was good for us financially, and we expected that we might be able to do that in years 11 and 12. And I'm disappointed that we haven't been able to do that. There are those who think that this sort of major change is ill-timed because of all the other challenges we're facing in intercollegiate athletics. I happen to believe that we are not looking at a period of calm water anytime in the near future. And the fact is, when the playoff gets over in year 12, the 25-26 season, 26 championship game, we're going to have to make these decisions. And so in some ways we've kicked the can down the road, and I'm disappointed at that because I thought there was some opportunities. So I'm not happy with the way it's turned out, but we manage the playoff by unanimous consent, and that comes with its burdens. And so we will continue to forge ahead, and I continue to believe that 12 is the right format. I think it creates the right sense of opportunity for everybody that's playing college football. I think it's also good for the Big 12 Conference, and so I am going to continue to push in that direction.
Yeah, I was hoping for 12 too, so I'm looking forward to hopefully one day that it is 12. I know there were some meetings in Las Vegas a couple months ago where you guys started to discuss some of the things with the new league. When do you kind of finalize that in terms of how many conference games you're going to have and division splits and that kind of thing?
Well, we've got a subcommittee that's working on football scheduling, one that's working on men's basketball, one that's working on women's basketball, baseball, all of those kinds of things, and we're making good progress. I think that one of the things we're doing is we're beginning to include the athletic directors and the coaches in our meetings going forward, and so they'll start to feel like a part of the Big 12 and a part of the decision processes on those kinds of things. But there's also a transition that takes place in how eligibility is certified and what kinds of records we expect and what the policies are by which we manage the league. And so there's going to be a period of adjustment. There isn't any doubt about it. But by the time we get to this point in the year next year, I think BYU and the other 3 incoming members will feel like members of our league, even though they aren't competing at that time. And then before long, it'll be July 1st, and we'll be off to the races.
It'll be here before we know it, really. Do you have an opinion on 8 or 9 conference games? Because that certainly shapes a team's schedule in a great way.
I'm in football. I'm an advocate for 9 games because I think our conference quality is good enough that's a valuable thing for us. I think we're going to be at 14 for a couple of years, and so playing a full round robin is not in the cards. And so I think you want to minimize the number of no plays you have if you possibly can. I think that's one of the things that make great leagues is great rivalries, and so we're going to do everything we can to have that happen. Once we get to 12, we'll probably take a different look at it. I wouldn't be surprised if we played divisions in football. I'm guessing that we may not play divisions in basketball for different reasons, but those things are still taking shape, and I honestly don't have any preconceived notions that those are any place close to final. I think we are in that process where we're listening and we're talking to both the current members and the continuing members as well as the incoming members, and we'll eventually reside where we think it's best for everybody. Those decisions in the case of scheduling largely take place. We usually try and announce our football schedule in October, and of course we don't always have all the non-conference games done by then, but at least the league schedule will likely announce in October of 22 for the fall of 23. So we're really only 6 or 7 months from having a schedule.
It's exciting.
Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby is with us on BYU Sports Nation. When I think about BYU transitioning into the Big 12 and natural rivalries, TCU pops into my mind. So if you want to push BYU towards another rivalry, quote unquote, with TCU, I think that would be a fun thing.
Well, I think there'll be a number of rivalries that develop. Interestingly enough, we added BYU in the West. We added Cincinnati and Central Florida on the East, and Houston was a pretty easy addition. We got a worldwide brand with BYU. We got 3 of the best recruiting areas in the country with the other 3, and they're all a little differently situated, but eventually they'll tend towards the mean in terms of what has become common practice in our league. And I just think it's going to be interesting to see how it shapes up, because after having been at the BYU Baylor game, I would tell you I think there is the nuggets of a rivalry there.
It felt like it, right?
And
right?
It was a great crowd, and there was a lot of blue and white in the stands, and so I think we probably won't spend a lot of time trying to force rivalries, but let those evolve a little bit. And TCU is a worthy rivalry opponent. There isn't any doubt about that, and they're in a little bit of transition because for the first time in decades, Gary Patterson's not going to be coaching their football team.
Yep. Nope. We're familiar with Gary from the Mountain West, so yeah, it'll be interesting. Okay, so when a father has a new child, he gets new dad strength, right? That happens. It didn't happen to me, but it happens typically. It felt like new Power 5 strength happened to BYU and Cincy and Houston. And was there a validating moment there where you were like, okay, I already knew I wanted these 4, but oh my gosh, they had tremendous seasons this year, especially in football. And now in basketball, it's been pretty good with Houston too.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't know if I had an aha moment on it, although we followed the progress of all the new teams throughout the fall, not surprisingly. But, one of the places where you can actually look at it from a statistical standpoint, we looked at it, the addition of the 4 in basketball and the deletion of the 2 that will eventually leave, and our net improved as a result of adding those schools. And, I would suggest that we will compete exceedingly well in every sport, particularly football and men's and women's basketball, because they, like BYU, there are great traditions. There are great traditions among our continuing members and the 4 additions. We went out and tried to make athletic decisions on who's the best athlete out there. To put it in the recruiting vernacular, you may not be recruiting entirely by position. You're recruiting by who's the best athlete. And BYU's program athletically has been extraordinary over a very, very long period of time, and just brings tremendous credibility to our league. And aspirationally, we want to win national championships, and that's not just in a few sports. We'd like to win national championships in everything, and that means being good enough to be in the playoff in football, and being good enough to be in the Final Four in basketball, and win national championships. And so we're going to be good in a very broad array of sports. And the schools that are coming in have big alumni bases, worldwide followings, great recruiting. I think BYU's recruiting will be assisted by having Houston in the state of Texas. I mean, they reside in Harris County, Texas, which is arguably the best recruiting county in the entire United States for football players. So I think there's going to be a tremendous impact. And as I've talked with coaches while we've been on campus, to a person, they've said it's having a tangible effect on our recruiting. And I think that's a good early indication. It isn't the final verdict, but that's a really good early indication. And so I think rivalries help to drive that. A kid from Texas wants to know that he's going to get to play in front of his family once in a while. Well, he can go to BYU and know that he's going to be playing in front of his family. And so I think that's a great thing. And while we did go far and wide to add members, we also didn't add anybody that's farther away from Dallas than Morgantown, West Virginia. So it's we're in 3 time zones. We've got great traditions. We've got great recruiting areas, great alumni bases. It has all the ingredients of being extraordinarily successful.
Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby is with us on BYU Sports Nation. You've probably already answered this question in large part by saying that you anticipate Oklahoma and Texas to be with the league through 2025. What's the relationship like with those 2 schools as they transition out and you welcome the 4 teams in? Do you expect that things will go status quo through 25?
It's hard to tell. We don't have control over that. The public comments and the private comments from Oklahoma and Texas have been that they're going to meet their obligations. We have 2 governing documents that we have all agreed to adhere to. One is our bylaws, and it says you commit for 99 years, and if you leave, you leave 2 years of net revenue, which is, if you use the last 2 years, it's about $75 million per institution. But the other document that guides us, and will eventually put a new version of this in place, is a grant of media rights that allows us to go forth and negotiate and manage our television media, and to a certain extent some other smaller tranches of media. And the grant of rights is built around federal copyright law. So it, unlike the bylaws where we'd have to go to court in Oklahoma or Texas, the grant of rights is going to be heard in a federal jurisdiction, and wow. And we feel like we have pretty good law on our side. So you take their comments for what they are, and rely on the documents that we all agreed to. I expect that they'll be here through June of 25. Whether that happens or not, I suppose that there could be bumps in the road along the way, but they've told us they're going to be here, and we expect that they'll be here.
The current TV contract goes through the 24-25 athletic season, correct?
Correct.
When do you start negotiating for the next one, given what you know of the new league and the changing landscape? Everyone always talks about at some point a OTT provider will be the main. No one's actually done that quite yet as the primary source, right? So I guess what does that kind of look like in the future?
Well, we actually were an early adopter on some of the streaming technology. We got involved with ESPN Plus before any other league did, and I think the financial aspects sports television are unsettled at the present time. You know, we're migrating from linear cable to streaming, and I don't think there's any doubt that we're on the right side of technology. Who knows if there'll be a new technology at some point in time that'll replace streaming? We didn't know about streaming 7 or 8 years ago, but that sort of disruption, that sort of transition, I think is going to be with us for a while. We have a look in on our contracts that it starts in early 24, and we have part of our contract is with ESPN, part of it with Fox. We'll go back to both partners and begin having some conversations, but there are some indications that there are going to be more players involved in the space than there have been in the past, more that would like to get involved with college football particularly. And we derive, as a conference, we derive about 80% of our revenue from our football product. We put 105 basketball games on TV, men's basketball. And then we have each institution generates between 50 and 60 events a year for ESPN Plus. And we largely are not being compensated for that right now, but we will be in the new day. And then, you know, data rights management has gotten to be a big component that will be part of that negotiation as well. So it's a little bit of a new day, and we need to negotiate in ways that reflect that. But live sports is today and always has been the coin of the realm. It's you look at linear cable as an example. 93 or 4 of the top 100 events are live sports,
and like NFL, right?
Well, a lot of it's NFL, but there's a lot of college football and Final Four and things like that that get on there as well. So, it's owning live sports is a good thing, and it's always going to be valuable, and it fits together a little differently than it has in the past, but the companies don't have an almost endless flow of cable subscription fees to give away as rights fees, but it's an evolving environment, and we'll have a welcome group of suitors out there, and I think we'll do well when it's time to go to auction. So whether we extend with our current partners or go to a true open marketplace is yet to be determined.
Fascinating stuff with the Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlsby. I'm exhausted for you thinking about everything that has to happen. And so with that in mind, you have to leave Provo on a sugar high. So if you haven't already, you need to get a mint fudge brownie, grab some Lavelle's vanilla, and get one of those 3-foot-long maple bar donuts called Cougar Tails. Yeah,
well, I was defeated by a Cougar Tail last evening. I got back to my room, and I got about a third of the way into it, and I just couldn't do it.
That's pretty good.
I was completely wired.
He didn't sleep all night.
Bob, we thank you for the time. Really appreciate you coming in to hang out with us on BYU Sports Nation.
Great to be with you guys. Thanks.